Welcome back. Interesting story. I came across this and thought, oh, this is the kind of news, that's good news, especially for those of you, getting on in your 70s and in your 80s. And we hear so much about Alzheimer's and, decline over the years, that when you come across a story that sheds some light on this and suggests, it doesn't have to be that way, it's worth doing. So you may have heard the term superagers. That's a term that describes people 80 or over, but in this case, those people, those superagers, their memory and cognition more closely resembles people in their 50s and 60s. Want to find out more? Dr. Sandra Weintraub is a clinical neuropsychologist and professor of psychiatry and neurology at Northwestern University, involved in this research and on the line right now. Doctor, thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I would like to, if you could, just explain, because, I don't want people to get the impression that everyone is able to do this. It's not everyone. You've been studying this now for many, many years. What have you discovered here? Which people are more likely to be able to enjoy this kind of cognition?
Yeah, so actually, we came at it backwards. So there's nothing you can do to become a superager, but we defined superagers. We were interested. We all knew somebody who was in their 80s or more, who we said was sharp as a tack, and we wanted to try to identify those people and study them, as opposed to studying the people who go the more normal route, which is to consistently lose memories at the age of 65. So we define superagers as an 80-year-old who has memory test scores at least as good as a 50-year-old, and some of them are as good as 20-year-olds.
Wow.
And so we thought, okay, what are these people doing that we can learn from?
Well, so let's get into that. I mean, how do you study that, and what did you determine? What did you find out?
Okay, well, we studied everything from looking at genetic makeup, at looking at their habits, their lifestyle, and then these people have been followed longitudinally, annually, and some of them have donated their brains at death, which sounds a little gruesome, but it isn't, because it really helps us to know what's in the brains of these individuals that is different from what's in the brains of somebody who has a dementia and has Alzheimer's disease. So we learned that probably the most striking, two things. One is that these people love people. They're very social. It's very important to them to have social networks, and they just love being with other people. So one of the messages is that, I don't know if you are with other people, you'll become a superager, but certainly that's what superagers like to do. The other thing we learned was that if we look at the brain pathology after death, we see that there are two kinds of superagers. One of them has absolutely no pathology of Alzheimer's disease, those plaques and tangles that we hear about that are related to Alzheimer's disease. We thought, oh boy, that, we found the Holy Grail. But then the next few people had as many plaques and tangles as somebody who has a dementia. So the question was, okay, there's two routes to getting here. One is resistance. You don't make these proteins. And the second one is resilience. You make them, but they don't do anything to your cognition.
Which I guess begs the question, if that's what you're able to discover, that you have two people or two different types of people, one who just simply don't get it and others who do, but it doesn't affect them, does that open the door for some sort of medication, or how would we be able to treat those people who have them and not have dementia become an issue?
Yeah, well, obviously that's the $1 million question, or maybe the $1 billion question in this day of inflation. So we don't know. We're trying to figure out, and if you look at their lifestyles, somebody asked me, I think a reporter asked me, well, what's the prescription for a superager? And you would think, okay, everything you do for your heart is good for your brain. Sleep, treat depression, eat well, don't abuse your brain with drugs and alcohol. But the superagers are, again, one of them is a couch potato. The other one is went to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So there's no single secret. And I think that that's true because we don't appreciate how different individuals are from one another, especially as they get older. And that's the whole message here, is that not everybody is going to follow the same path, and we've got to try to figure out how can we determine who follows which pathway.
Which is the big, question, as you said, right? The unlocking here of whatever that key would be. We're still not close to knowing that, though.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
The brain is a remarkable organ.
Well, I mean, you mentioned, and the thing I think that maybe strikes people the most when you first said it is this idea that these people are social people. And what we hear from people as they get older, you tend to lose friends and family. You have friends who die off. Loneliness is a giant problem. And to your case, obviously, that if you can avoid that or at least deal with that by being more social or involving more people in your life, that's a prescription to at least to some degree, start to feel better about things.
Yes, we're hoping that that's one intervention that's potentially available to people. So people like to grow old in their own homes. They don't want to go to assisted living or to be with, and we encourage people to do that, because if you're in your own home, it's going to be really hard to have people come and see you all the time, or you have to go out.
Yeah.
But if you're in a situation where socialization is part of your daily routine, it's a different story.
It's probably an unfair question to ask, Doctor, but I mean, you've studied this for quite some time. If someone would come to you at that age and say, look, here's, what I'm doing, and maybe they take a cognitive test and they're okay, but they ask, well, how can I get better? What's your answer to that?
How can I get better? Okay, so there are many risk factors for dementia, and I named a few a little while ago. So exercise, eating healthy, getting sleep, not abusing your brain. So those are all risk factors, and it doesn't mean that if you do all of them, you're going to be a SuperAger.
Sure.
But for sure, if you don't do them, you're going to increase your risk of not being. So kind of it's do whatever you can in your lifestyle to reduce your risk.
And then after all that, kind of hope for the best. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Hope for good genes from your parents. And by the way, longevity, it's not just longevity, because lots of people live for a long time and have a lot of illness.
Right.
It's longevity plus some supernatural thing that keeps you going really long.
Sad but true. If I can ask, are you hopeful, given all the study in this and given what we're finding out more and more all the time, that one day we will come close to understanding how to maybe cure this, I guess, or treat it?
I don't think we're going to cure anything, because it's not a disease. Okay, I mean, we're talking about Alzheimer's like it's a disease, and yes, it is in some people. But in some people, we have these things in their brain that looks like it's the disease, but it doesn't cause the disease.
Right.
So, I think to think of that it's going to be like strep throat, where you're going to find an antibiotic, you're going to take one thing and it's going to go away. That's just not going to work. And I think, again, going back to your health and your risks, controlling everything you possibly can. You can't control your genes, but you can control other things, or you can try.
Famous last words. Doctor, I thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Very happy to do this.
Take care. There you go. SuperAgers. Imagine being in your 80s and still having cognitive functions like you're in your 50s and 60s, but so much longer to go to try to get a better idea of why this happens and who it happens to.
I'm Luke Wilson. Join me each week for Film Never Lies. Since retiring from the NFL, I've had a lot on my mind, and now I've got my own show. So if you're tired of lazy takes, if you want honest conversations, join us each week. Film Never Lies, available on all TSN platforms and the iHeartRadio app.